All right, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to have you here with me during this session today. My name is Stephanie Baskerville. I am the content writer here at ProServeIT, and I'm so happy to be with you today to speak with you about storytelling, the key to successful content marketing. So, given that we only have 20 minutes together, I will say that our agenda is going to be pretty succinct today. We are going to talk a little bit about why is storytelling so important for nonprofits and charities, 7 key components to a good story, where to start, blogs, essential elements of a good blog post, next steps. 3 things that you can do right now to get your story game going. So I want to dive right into the meat and potatoes of this, if you will. So why storytelling? Now, um, I didn't want to talk about what is storytelling because everybody kind of knows what storytelling is, right? Obviously, we all know that storytelling is a process of using facts and narrative to communicate something to your audience, right? And it's really important to obviously know that. But why storytelling? Why is it so important? And here's where it gets interesting, because stories are helping us to solidify those abstract concepts that we come across in our day, right? And they're helping us to simplify complex messages too, right? So in a Harvard Business Review article that I discovered about this topic, right, storytelling that moves people, you can look it up. It says in it, cognitive psychologists describe how the human mind, in its attempt to understand and remember, assembles the bits and pieces of experience into a story. And so stories are how we remember. We tend to forget lists and bullet points. And if you think about that, that's pretty clear, right? Because if you think about it, I can't remember the last shopping list that I made, which was a list, right? But I can tell you the plot of my absolutely favorite book, right? So very interesting, of course, to think about that. But the question then becomes, how do we tell a good story, and what are some key components of a good story, and how can you translate those to the stories that your nonprofit or your registered charity might be trying to tell at this time, right? And how can you use those stories to attract those donors and those sponsors that you're looking for, and attract that interest that you need to make sure that your mission is accomplished, right? So there are a number of ways that you can build your own sort of story. But something that ProServeIT's marketing team recently came upon was a book, Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand book. It was something that we all read as a team and then started to extract information from that we could use in our own organization to help us, tell a better story. And, he talks about 7 key components, or 7 basic plot points that are critical to telling a good story. And he says that these 7 basic plot points can be found in almost every story that you read, or every movie that you watch, right? A lot of these, almost all of these stories and elements will be described in almost everything that you're seeing or that you're reading out there, right? So I thought that was pretty relevant, actually, and what the book explained was very relevant to what we were doing at ProServeIT. So I did want to share those with you. So I'm going to kind of build out this slide here a little bit as we go. And so in Mr. Miller's words, the 7 key components to a good story is that a character who wants something encounters a problem, and before they can get what they want, right? And at the peak of their despair, a guide steps in, and they gives them steps into their lives and gives them a plan, which calls them to action, right? And then that action helps them to either avoid failure and ends in success. Okay, so the components make up this, he calls it his SB7 framework, as his book mentions. Okay, and it's really important to note that, contrary to popular belief, we don't want to position our organizations as the character or as the hero, in this particular framework, right? And Mr. Miller is quite clear that what we want to be seen as is that guide, okay, and that we want to be seen as the one with all the answers out there. And that's simply because the extensive research that's been done, and he kind of quotes that in the book as well, it recognizes that people wake up as the hero of their own story, and they're not really interested or willing to engage or follow or even take interest in companies who are trying to change that internal narrative that they are the hero, right? They're more interested in you know, keeping themselves as the hero of their story, right? That self-identification as hero is prevalent, and they're going to kind of ignore anything else that's out there. So when we position ourselves, you know, we want to position ourselves kind of as the Yoda to their Luke Skywalker, right? And we want to help them understand that we have the answers, we have that plan, we've got that great thing that's going to help them achieve what they want to achieve in life. And we want to make sure that we're going to help them understand that we will solve their problems. We will be that answer to that problem by helping them on their way, right? So the question becomes, how do we translate this into a story that your nonprofit or registered charity can utilize to draw others to your cause? So I wanted to kind of explore this a little bit with you. So let's say that your nonprofit organization provides free mental health resources to youth who are suffering and who, for whatever reason, aren't able to pursue a traditional path to getting their mental illness looked after. Okay. So, you know, therapy, whatever. So the character that wants something that could be either the youth that you're trying to help, or the character could be the donors that you're trying to attract to donate to your cause. Now, the character, when you think about the encountering a problem part of it, right? Obviously, if you're thinking of the youth as your character or as the character in the story, right? The problem's pretty clear. They can't access the mental health resources that they need. You know, and if your character is the donor, the problem that might be that they haven't found a worthy cause to donate to, or they want to be seen as the hero in their family and friends, right? That they're donating to these great causes, or they want to make a difference in the world, right? There's a lot of different internal and you know, sort of stressors or things that are going on that whatever reason they want that problem is there, right? And so, you know, the character is despairing of ever being able to kind of get that help that they need, right? If it's that youth, they might not necessarily think that they'll ever get the help that they need. They might be in a downward spiral, right? Or you know, they don't know, you know, if the character that you're talking about is the donor, right? They might not, they're despairing that they might never find that cause that they want to donate to, right? But then they meet a guide, and that guide is you, who steps into their lives, and you're going to step into the life of that youth or of that donor, right? And you've got a plan. You've got this great plan how you're going to help them, right? So again, if it's the youth, you've got a way that they can get the help that they need. If it's the donor, you've got an amazing organization that you just want them to, you know, to donate to, right? So this is, of course, you know, once you've got that plan out there and you're going to tell them what that plan is, then you're going to give them that call to action, right? And of course, a call to action is so important in this case. I mean, you know, think about it. What if Ben Kenobi hadn't told Luke Skywalker to go to the Dagobah system, right? He would never have met Yoda, right? So you know, if you're gonna, you know, you're gonna call whoever it is that your audience is or that character is to action, right? So the youth, get the help you need now, or the donor, donate now, right? And then this call to action is going to help them to avoid failure. So, you know, for the youth, they won't just become another statistic, right? The donor might say they won't be seen as uncaring or a miser, or you know, some other negative influence on society, or you know, somebody who just doesn't really, you know, doesn't think about other people, right? Whatever that failure looks like to them. And then you're also going to lead them to success, right? So whatever success looks like for them, sorry. So the youth, for example, right? They'll get the help that they need to turn their life around and become the best version of themselves that they can possibly be, and they never thought it was possible without your organization. Or the donor will be able to brag to the friends and family that they're a good, decent, caring human being who, you know, cares about the youth of the community, and you're helping them to achieve that dream of being recognized as a philanthropist, or whatever that success looks like, right? Maybe it's just that they can look at themselves in the mirror and know that they did something for somebody else, right? So whatever that success looks like to them, you're going to help them with that plan and that call to action to really help them achieve that success they're looking for, right? You're gonna be that, you know, helping Luke Skywalker get the medal at the end from Princess Leia, right? So This, of course, by applying a little bit of creativity, the scenario that I've just described to you folks can basically be translated to whatever your specific organization's goals and objectives are. But how do we get started, and how do we start telling these stories, and where to begin, right? And this is where I'm going to say we start to begin with blogs. Okay. So when I was first hired at ProServeIT in 2017, I was hired as an intern to apply my writing talents to help overhaul the company's kind of outdated website. And our goal for the task was to basically turn the website into a place where customers could gather the information that they needed and then make an informed decision about what products or services were right for their business. At the time, ProServeIT and still ProServeIT's company policy was, of course, to eliminate IT debt. So basically not selling the customer what they didn't need, but making sure that whatever we did sell to them was exactly what they needed and they would get the maximum ROI on their investment, right? We definitely wanted to make sure that that story was out there, that that was, who we stood for. And we wanted to really explain our corporate culture in a way that everyone, regardless of their technical background, could understand, right? And so one of the ways that we decided we would kind of proceed with that was to look at how could we provide customer information while also building an audience for the company and a sales tool for our sales team to share valuable insights and content with their leads and their prospects. And the answer we came up with was revamping our blog and looking at how we could take our blog into a new sort of realm of where it was. And it was very technical when I first started. And then, it was the idea of turning that tech talk into business speak, right? And so the reason we decided to focus on the blog was because if you think about it, a website is a rather a finite resource, right? It's a great way to tell a story and get people interested in your brand and get people interested in what you do and your cause. But you can only have so many pages before your website starts to look really cluttered, right? And it gets really hard to navigate and, really doesn't help you any, and it becomes more of a hindrance than a help. But with a blog, you can expand your reach into any number of topics, and from those that are obviously quite near and dear to your particular cause and to your particular mandate or your particular mission. But also, with some creativity and some ingenuity, right? You can even tackle topics that may only bear a passing resemblance to your cause. And so let's take our mental health organization as an example of this. So, of course, the obvious topics of discussion that you might think for a youth mental health organization would be obviously youth mental health, would be exploring maybe some specific mental illnesses like depression or anxiety or ADHD or things like that. You might decide to write about rating or discussing specific treatments that might be available out there, weighing in on the discussion around medications, if there's effectiveness of medications or relevancy of medications or whatever that might happen to be. You might want to cover some statistics around youth mental illness, in your areas or globally or whatever. Or you might even want to be able to write about specific youth that you've helped, and that have found that success that they're looking for because of your organization, right? So those are some of the things that you would kind of automatically assume or automatically think of. But what about writing to a response to an editorial about homelessness? Right? If you think about it, youth who suffer mental illness often find themselves in youth shelters, right? So by exploring homelessness as the general topic, you can insert your brand and insert your cause into that narrative and that discussion. And you can do so in a way that would open yourself up to a whole bunch of new audiences that you might necessarily not have thought about before, right? How about seeing about how you can spin a trending news article to suit your purpose, right? With your blog, you can kind of take on that more conversational tone. And dare I say, in some cases, you can even be somewhat controversial with your blog, right? Because that obviously attracts attention and attracts interest in what you're trying to talk about, right? And putting out a really, a controversial statement like whatever the controversial statement might be, you can really attract a lot of people who might not necessarily be interested in what you're, or wouldn't have normally be interested in what you're offering, right? By doing that and by engaging in that conversation and engaging in that storytelling, right? And I'm not, of course, saying that you can just go and spread misinformation or anything like that. Like, this isn't condoning that. But, the point is, when you start to look at how you can tell a story, you can turn your blog into that next sort of real life Star Wars story, or that next real life Hunger Games story, or that next real life, insert your favorite, fictional story here, right? So for the last few minutes of my discussion today, I kind of wanted to talk about some of the essential elements of a good blog post for you, and I'm going to put them up on the screen here. So first of all, of course, you want to have an eye-catching, attention-grabbing headline, right? That's relevant to the conversation and the discussion that you're going to have in your blog. Obviously, you don't want an eye-catching headline that has nothing to do with your blog, because that's considered clickbait, okay? So you don't want that. But following that, you want to make sure that what you're opening with, that compelling opening sentence or short paragraph, also known as a lead, right, draws the reader into your story, okay? Subheadings are a great way to help categorize and prioritize what you're going to talk about, and it also gives people a way to skim through your discussion and ensure that they're interested in what you have to say, okay? And, a lot of research has been done, and research has shown that people don't read word for word. They do skim a lot. They'll skim your content to see if there is something that kind of catches their eye before they settle in and give you that time, that give you their time of day, right? So those headlines, sorry, like the headline, the subheadings should also be really intriguing and kind of thought-provoking as well. Having engaging content that informs the reader, of course, is important. A blog platform shouldn't really be used as kind of a data dump or a rant or a place for ramblings of any kind, right? You want something that's going to inform the reader. It's going to engage them. It's going to make them think about what you're saying and about what you're asking or you're talking about, right? And to go along with that, and to go along with the idea that people won't read word for word, you also want to include eye-catching graphics that are appealing to look at, and whether those graphics happen to be a picture or an infographic or a short video or a testimonial that you've put together or an appropriate meme. Okay, memes are, they were big a couple years ago. They're still kind of big, right? And if you can find an appropriate one or create an appropriate one that you can use on your, social media channels later on or whatever, right? Those kind of things help to engage the reader and provide a good experience for them, because it's not just a whole block of text, which, again, like I said, people aren't really going to read that. They're going to just kind of skim through it. So if you've got graphics that kind of break up that text, it's really important to be able to kind of help to show what you're trying to say in your blog, okay? Blogs should also have a powerful call to action in them. We talked about the call to action in the story elements that I shared, right? You can have a direct call to action, like a donate now button at the end of a blog, or, a transitional call to action, like read more here, or check out this this case study, or, see how we're helping your community today, or whatever it is, right? And then it leads them into another page. And that includes, that weaves into that relevant internal links there as well, right? You want to be considering this because you want to think about, from a reader's perspective, where that journey is through your website, right? So, where are they starting? How are they finding you? All that kind of good stuff. Relevant internal links help to tell the story that you're trying to tell, and it helps them become familiar with who you are, and helps you to start that content as well. And then last, you want people to be able to find your content. So a really good meta description created with search engine optimization in mind is vitally important to have for any blog or web page you're putting out there. If you'd like to learn more about SEO, I would recommend that you check out Oxa Arshad's session a little bit later on in the day. She is my colleague. She's talking about SEO in greater detail. So, these are just some essential elements of a good blog post and some things to kind of keep in the back of your mind. But let's talk a little bit about next steps here. So what can you do to get started right this second, right? So first of all, of course, collect your stories. So think about, who are the people that you help? Who are the people who have helped you? Donors, companies that have donated to you, people that you've engaged with. Maybe you're partnering with other companies, right? Like these kind of things. Collect these stories, and then, of course, no brainer, start telling the stories, right? So review, one thing that you can do right away is to review your current blog posts and see if, any of those could be revised to apply the story framework that we talked about today, or to start looking at, what are some of the new posts that you can be writing about, right? If you don't have a blog, you can consider starting one as well. Okay, it is relatively inexpensive to do so, and a lot of web platforms that you might be using for your website already have a blog feature that can be turned on with minimal fuss. So, definitely do that. And then third, I would definitely recommend checking out resources that will help you to tell your story more effectively and get that word out there. These are three that I would recommend just off the top of my head. They are definitely not I would say that they're the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, right? Certainly a great start, but definitely not the extensive list here on the subject. There's obviously quite a few more amazing resources out there, and you can certainly look into them. But these three I would definitely suggest checking out just for starters, and then getting that conversation in your own internal organization started. So folks, I'm going to say that's going to do it for me today. And I do want to say, if you have any questions about what was discussed in our session today, or if you would, you want any sort of feedback or anything like that, I'd definitely be interested in engaging in a conversation with you. So you can reach out to us, cloud@ProServeIT.com. I do monitor that email, and I would be more than happy to kind of jump on a quick email chat with you and sort of just, help you to sort of explore maybe a few ideas or options. But I do want to say thanks so much for joining me for this session. I hope that you folks learned something from it, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of our Empower 2021 virtual conference for you folks, for nonprofits and charities. So thanks again. Take care. Have a lovely day, and stay safe out there, folks.